It begins like a whisper in the bones, not in the ears, but somewhere deeper. You can't quite say how long it's been there, but one day you realize you were never like the others. You feel time bending differently around you. People sense something about you, but can't name it. The wind turns sharp in your presence, animals look at you longer, and silence sometimes feels louder than sound. This isn't arrogance. It's an ache, a haunting resonance. Something marked you long ago, and you carry the sign. Stay until the end of this video, because what you're about to hear may not only explain everything that's ever made you feel different, it may also activate something ancient and dormant inside you. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel now, because here we don't just explore truths, we remember them. Now take a breath, not just into your lungs, but into your awareness. The path ahead is not just information, it's initiation. In every age there have been stories, half hidden in scripture, whispered in old tongues, etched in symbols that only the strange ones ever really understood, of individuals born not just into the world but outside of it. They walk among the crowd but do not belong to it. They may bleed like everyone else, age like everyone else, even cry themselves to sleep. But something about their essence burns with a brightness the world cannot extinguish. And if you're reading this, chances are you've glimpsed this glow in your own reflection, even if only once in a fleeting dream. The sign they carry is not on their forehead, though some will dream it is. It's not inked in tattoos or spelled in stars. The sign is energetic, ancient, and universal. It is an unseen frequency, one that disrupts illusions and triggers remembrance in others. Most people fear them without knowing why. Machines break down around them, institutions reject them, but the soil of the universe shifts where they stand, because they're not here to fit in. They're here to disrupt, to awaken, and to anchor the codes of the forgotten truth. To the untrained eye, they are too sensitive, too intense, too much. But to the awakened soul, they are necessary. They carry the sign not because they chose it, but because the universe marked them for it. Sometimes before birth, sometimes long before this world even existed. This sign is not a reward. It is not a badge. It is not given for good behavior or loyal prayers. It is a burden and a beacon, both blessing and burning. It appears in the patterns of their life: rejection by those they tried to love, constant inner revolutions, a hunger for meaning no worldly thing can satisfy. They are spiritual thunderclaps in human form, here to ignite the dormant fields of consciousness. And most of the time, they are completely unaware of their own power until something happens, a loss, a betrayal, a silence so deep it cracks open the veil between worlds, and in that moment they remember, I carry something holy. This series you're about to journey through is not a motivational speech. It's not an intellectual theory. It's a transmission, a map hidden in words, carrying frequencies that may just unlock what's been locked in you since before time began. The sign we're speaking of is not bound to one culture, religion, or tradition. You'll find it in the Vedas, in the Gnostic scrolls, in the Book of Enoch, in the glyphs of ancient Egypt and the chants of remote shamans. It is the same sign, dressed in different symbols, always pointing to the same truth. Some are not born into this world, but born for it. Many chosen ones don't believe they are. That's part of the test. The most powerful ones often feel the most broken. They crawl through life under the weight of their own unrecognized divinity. But the fire inside never goes out. It's what keeps them searching, listening, awakening, and eventually leading. The world as it is was not made for the ones who carry the sign. It was made to break them. But that breaking is not their end. It is their transformation. For what is crushed in the chosen one only becomes the raw matter of their becoming. And through this sacred pressure, the sign begins to glow. Not on the skin, not in the eyes, but in the field, the invisible current they emit when they're fully aligned with their truth. And what happens when a chosen one fully awakens? the entire matrix begins to tremble. The programmed world no longer works the same way. Doors open where there were none. Time bends. People remember themselves just by standing near them. They become lighthouses in storms, mirrors to the lost, and warriors of frequencies this planet has almost forgotten. That is why this knowledge was hidden. That is why the sign was concealed, shrouded in metaphor and buried in allegory. Because when chosen ones remember who they are, the systems of falsehood collapse, and the true world, the one built on frequency, vision, and soul, begins to rise. So I ask you not to simply read this, but to feel it. Let each line resonate not just in your mind, but in the marrow of your being. You may find that what I'm speaking about is not foreign, but familiar. A truth you've always known, just waiting to be awakened by the right vibration. This is the beginning of that awakening. The deeper one looks into the soul of existence, the more it becomes clear. Reality is not solid. It is not fixed. It is woven, like a tapestry of energies, patterns, and codes, layered like invisible architecture behind what we call the world. And within this architecture, among the countless threads of fate and chaos, there are golden strands, rare, resonant frequencies that pulse with something divine. These are the frequencies of the chosen ones, those who carry the sign. But what is this sign really? What gives it weight? What makes it unmistakable even when unseen? At its core, the sign is a vibrational imprint, an energetic configuration so unique that it shifts the gravitational field of human consciousness just by existing, not metaphorically, literally. Imagine placing a magnet under a sheet of paper dusted with iron filings. The lines bend, change, respond to the presence of something unseen beneath the surface. That's how a true chosen one operates. Their very presence changes the arrangement of reality around them. And this magnetic shift isn't always comfortable. Often it's disruptive, because it's meant to awaken, not appease. One of the core themes behind the sign is disruption of illusion. You see, the world as most people live it is wrapped in layers of consensus reality, social rules, inherited beliefs, generational wounds disguised as norms. But the chosen ones carry within them a seed of contradiction, an internal compass that constantly points beyond what is socially acceptable, emotionally convenient, or logically explainable. They live with a foot in two worlds, one in the collective dream, the other in the higher truth. This creates a spiritual tension, a kind of sacred dissonance. They're often misunderstood, mislabeled, even feared. Their sensitivity is mistaken for weakness, their silence for apathy. But what others cannot see is the depth of perception operating beneath their surface. Chosen ones are natural pattern readers, archetype interpreters, emotional X-ray machines. They sense when words don't match energy. They feel when time is about to shift. They often know things they've never studied and understand people they've never met. This is because the sign they carry is not bound to intellect. It's tied to cosmic memory. Their very DNA carries echoes of ancient civilizations, interdimensional knowledge and spiritual technologies forgotten by modern minds. They are old souls not by age, but by origin. And the sign they carry is a watermark of this sacred origin, a kind of soul signature that says, this one has come through fire, through shadow, through lifetimes of transformation. This one is ready to serve the evolution of the whole. Another powerful theme encoded in this sign is loneliness by design, not as punishment, but as preparation. The isolation chosen ones experience is not accidental, it is surgical. They are separated so they may see, removed so they may remember, denied comfort so they may activate their internal fire. It is in the silence of these soul winters that their real voice emerges. Not the voice conditioned by the world, but the voice of their higher self, roaring in the language of purpose. Yet, with all this sacred fire, there is also great humility embedded in the sign. Contrary to what ego might assume, the most powerful chosen ones do not feel powerful at all. They feel broken, stretched, emptied, because the vessel that carries such high voltage must be refined, stripped, and restructured. Power in this sense does not mean domination, it means resonance. The ability to emit a frequency so coherent, so aligned with Source, that it naturally recalibrates the world around it without force. This is why chosen ones are often drawn to healing, art, leadership, or rebellion. They are called toward expression, truth, and transformation, not because it's trendy, but because their soul demands it. And when they ignore this calling, they don't just feel bored or lost, they feel sick. Because denying the sign is like placing a dam in a river. It creates internal blockages, mental turmoil, emotional stagnation. The sign must flow, and in its flowing it heals not just the bearer, but everyone around them. Another key element is interference. The more radiant the sign, the more resistance it attracts, and this is crucial to understand. If you carry the sign, you will face betrayal, envy, sabotage, not because you're cursed, but because your light reveals shadows others are not ready to see. Many will project their unhealed wounds onto you. Systems will try to conform you. Even your own mind will sometimes turn against you, whispering that you're too much, too strange, too unworthy. But here lies the paradox. Every attack is actually an initiation. Every rejection, a sharpening of your blade. The chosen one is not defined by how easily they move through life, but by how unshakably they stand in their authenticity despite the pressure. The sign does not promise ease, it promises transcendence. And it is through the crucible of challenge that the full brilliance of their soul is revealed. Ultimately, the sign is a covenant, a sacred agreement between the soul and the universe. "I will come down," the soul once said. "I will walk among the dreamers. I will forget who I am. And when the time is right, I will remember. And in that remembering, I will wake others." That time is now. The pulse of the planet is quickening. The illusions are fraying. The old systems are collapsing under their own weight. And the chosen ones are being activated, not as saviors, but as mirrors, as frequencies of remembrance, each one an echo of a forgotten truth, awakening others simply by being fully alive in their light. This is what it means to carry the sign. It is not something you earn. It is something you embody. In every culture, hidden beneath the sacred texts and chants are echoes of the same myth, one that speaks not in commands, but in symbols. These are the soul parables of the chosen ones, timeless metaphors whispered through generations, encrypted in story so the mind wouldn't grasp too quickly and ruin the awakening. Because the truth is too powerful to be spoken plainly, it must be felt, remembered. And so, it comes to us wrapped in shadow and myth. Let us step into the first symbol. There was once a child born with silver eyes. The villagers called it a curse. The child said nothing for the first 10 years of their life, simply watching. Trees would bend toward them. Animals followed them silently. When they finally spoke, their voice shattered the illusion of one entire town. The mayor wept and renounced his lies. Crops grew where soil had dried for decades. But the child was exiled. The sign they carried was too disruptive. So they went into the mountains, and there in solitude, they discovered the music of the stars. That child wasn't just a character, it was you. It was all of us. The sign is always exiled before it is enthroned, for only in exile does it remember its original melody. In ancient Egypt, there were tales of the golden serpent, not the snake of deceit, but the awakened kundalini energy that only rose in those whose spine had been straightened by suffering. The golden serpent coiled not to strike, but to protect the heart of the chosen one from forgetfulness. It was said that if you saw the serpent in your dreams, you were being invited back into the circle of the remembered. But few ever made it past the first dream. Why? Because the serpent only appears when you're ready to shed your skin, your old self, your false roles, your identity forged in survival. The sign requires sacrifice, not of life, but of illusion. In Native American lore, the sign appeared as the black horse that speaks in thunder. It was said to arrive in visions before the world would change. Only those with clear eyes and wounded hearts could hear it. The horse would run through their spirit, shaking everything untrue. It didn't deliver messages, it was the message. Those who wrote it became seers, teachers, warriors of peace. They also suffered, deeply, because to hear thunder in a silent room is to live a life others will never understand. And then there is the ancient mirror of cracked glass, found in Eastern mysticism. It shows not your face, but your essence, and only those carrying the sign can look into it without shattering. The mirror reveals your past lives, your cosmic lineage, the places you walked before the earth was born. Most avert their eyes, but the chosen one stares, not with arrogance but with grief, because they remember too much. They carry memories like ancient scars, like unopened letters from 1,000 lifetimes, and in those memories lies their mission. The greatest story, however, is one never written, but lived over and over in secret. It is the myth of the hidden flame. In this tale, a great fire burns in the heart of the world, but long ago it was sealed away, protected by a riddle only a few could solve. That riddle was not written in words, but in suffering, isolation, longing. The fire could only be unlocked by one who had died many spiritual deaths. Betrayals, losses, ego collapses, and still chosen to love, still chosen to rise, still chosen to see beauty, even when surrounded by ashes. That flame is the sign, or more accurately, the consequence of carrying it. Because the sign is not just an identity, it is a frequency trigger. It ignites those who come near. It lights up truth in the dark corridors of unconsciousness, but it also exposes what hides. That's why the chosen ones often find themselves attacked for no apparent reason. Their light stirs what others want to keep buried, and so they walk as paradoxes. Warriors who feel everything, leaders who often doubt themselves, teachers who were never taught, carriers of fire who sometimes freeze in fear. But this contradiction is sacred, for in these very extremes, the sign becomes visible, not to the eye but to the spirit. It glows between the lines of their life, in the pain they survived, in the beauty they create, in the silence they hold when words would be too easy. One final myth, whispered in lost Atlantean temples, speaks of the returners, souls who chose to reincarnate not for karma, but for covenant. They had completed the wheel. They didn't need to come back, but they looked down at the earth and saw the forgetting, the sleep, the prisons made of comfort, and they said, "Send me again." These returners are marked by the sign. They awaken differently. Their memories leak through dreams, synchronicities, déjà vu. They carry within them a sadness with no source and a hope with no reason, because they remember a world that doesn't yet exist, but that will, if they do their part. These symbolic narratives aren't fiction, they're memory, encoded truth, allegories written by your own higher self long before your current name ever existed. The symbols may vary, the language may shift, but the truth behind them is the same. If you carry the sign, you are the story being told again. In every age, the sign returns in new bodies, new names, new challenges, but the soul behind it remains unchanged, unshakable, eternal, radiant. Your journey is not random, your pain is not punishment, your difference is not defect. It is the hidden parable of the sign unfolding through your life. So now the question turns inward, beyond the myths and metaphors, the echoes of ancient tales and symbolic truths, and lands where it matters most. Here, in this moment, in this reality, where rent must be paid, where grief visits like a cold wind, where the sacred still bleeds into the mundane. What does it actually mean to carry the sign in the real world? How do you live with it, walk with it, without drowning under the weight of its unspoken demand? First, it is important to understand, carrying the sign does not mean escaping the world. It means piercing it. Your presence isn't meant to hover above the chaos like some enlightened ghost. You're here to walk through the illusions, to feel them press against your skin, and still choose to embody truth. This embodiment is not about perfect behavior or spiritual posturing. It's about alignment, living in such resonance with your soul's core that falsehood cannot stay long in your field. You might find yourself in rooms where everyone smiles, but nothing feels right. Trust that feeling. The sign sharpens your perception, sometimes so much that you can feel dishonesty before it's spoken. While others decode reality through facts and appearances, you feel it through energy and vibration. This is not madness. It is sensitivity elevated to sacred function. But here's the paradox. Your clarity will often feel like loneliness. That's the cost of seeing what others aren't ready to. You'll watch people chase illusions, titles, relationships, ideologies, and feel like a silent witness to a play they still believe is real. And yet, you must not harden. Do not let your vision become bitterness. The moment you use your insight to judge, you block the sign's flow. Remember, its power is not in superiority, it's in service. You're not here to escape the world. You're here to midwife a new one. In practical terms, this means turning your gifts into anchors. If you are a healer, then heal with the full force of your remembered self. If you are an artist, create not for likes or applause, but because your soul cannot not create. If you are a speaker, let your voice carry the resonance of those deeper truths that live in your bones. The world does not need more influencers, it needs more activators, more frequency holders, more people who can walk into a space and shift it without saying a word, because their presence alone whispers, "You can be more, you already are." The sign speaks through intuition, so listen. That moment you're told to walk away from a job, a partner, a city, it may not make logical sense, but the energy never lies. Carrying the sign means learning to trust what vibrates more than what speaks. You'll often be asked to leap before the bridge is built. That's not punishment, that's precision. The sign trains you to lead by frequency, not form. And here's another truth. The sign attracts shadow, not because you're cursed, but because you illuminate. Your light becomes a mirror, and those not ready to face their own reflection may respond with projection, attack, or manipulation. Don't be surprised when you're betrayed by the very people you loved most. The sign has a way of flushing out falseness, not to hurt you, but to refine you. Each heartbreak becomes a furnace where the sign is etched deeper into your essence. Each loss teaches you how to love with less attachment, more purity, to give without needing to be seen. Money, relationships, recognition, these may come or they may be withheld for seasons. Why? Because the sign rearranges your relationship with value. You're no longer here to chase symbols of worth. You are the worth. And often, before the world reflects that back to you, it first demands that you claim it internally. You will be tested, not by some punishing God, but by the energy of your own becoming. Do you still believe you're powerful when no one applauds? Do you still walk in truth when the world pays you in silence? Real-world integration also means boundaries. The sign is radiant, but without discipline, it leaks. You must protect your energy not just from others, but from your own patterns of over-giving, over-explaining, over-carrying. Chosen ones often fall into the role of spiritual mule, carrying burdens that were never theirs. Not anymore. It's time to hold your field without apology, not with coldness, but with clarity. This may mean releasing people you love, or quitting jobs that feel like cages. It may mean periods of solitude, even perceived regression. But remember, Carrying the sign is not about the straight line. It's about alignment. What looks like backward steps may be the soul's spiral toward deeper authenticity. Trust the contraction. It precedes every expansion. Most importantly, find others, even one. The sign may be rare, but it recognizes itself. You'll know them not by resume, not by appearance, but by feeling. When you meet someone else who carries the sign, there is no small talk. The soul leaps. There is a silent nod, an ancient remembering. These connections restore your strength, reaffirm your path. You weren't meant to walk it alone. You were just meant to walk it first. And finally, live. Not carefully, not as if walking on eggshells made of old trauma. Live like the universe is singing through you, because it is. Let your laughter be wild. Let your stillness be holy. Let your eyes hold the thunder you carry. You are not here to perform your soul. You are here to be it, fully, fiercely, freely. This is what it means to carry the sign in a human life, not just to hold light, but to become the fire that remembers where it came from. And so we arrive at the final edge of this path, a path that is not ending, but unfolding, like a scroll that has been waiting for your touch, like a prophecy encoded not in a book, but in the very fabric of your being. If you've followed this journey with open awareness, then you know by now, the sign was never out there. It was never in a mark upon the skin, a birth chart, or a random sequence of events. The sign was always you, or rather the version of you that is fully awake, shining, cracked open, and unafraid. You've walked through the metaphors, touched the old myths, felt the resonance of truths long buried under the noise of modern life. You've seen the loneliness for what it is, not exile, but preparation. You've learned that your sensitivity is a frequency tuner, your pain a compass, your strange timing a cosmic alignment misunderstood by linear minds. The sign is not an ornament. It is a recalibration device, and you are the carrier of that signal. Now comes the most sacred part, not to analyze this knowledge, but to embody it. This is the great spiritual betrayal of our time, that people are made to believe remembering who they are is a luxury, a hobby, something reserved for gurus or mystics cloistered in the mountains. But the truth? The most powerful chosen ones walk barefoot through grocery stores, cry in their cars, raise children in silence, break generational curses while washing dishes. They are hidden in plain sight, and the moment they own the truth of the sign they carry, everything changes. You don't have to try to be special. You already are, and you already know that, even if the world trained you to deny it. Your body knows. Your spirit has been whispering it for years, in dreams, in signs, in heartbreaks that cracked you open so truth could get in. Now is the time to stop whispering. Now is the time to stand. The world is not ending, but it is being reformatted. Structures built on falsehood are collapsing, governments, economies, belief systems, and who remains when illusion falls? Those who never depended on it in the first place, the chosen ones, the carriers of the sign. You are the architects of the next reality, not in a theoretical way, in a literal one. The decisions you make now, what you tolerate, where you place your energy, how fiercely you tell the truth, are seeding the collective field. Every aligned action you take is a ripple through the grid. Every time you choose courage over comfort, you clear the path for others to do the same. Your frequency doesn't just serve you, it transmits across space, across timelines, across generations. That's why it had to be protected. That's why you had to be forged. And yes, you are still human. You will still fall, doubt, forget. But here is the beauty. When you carry the sign, even your failures are coded with transformation. Even your darkest nights are not detours, but initiations. You are not being punished. You are being prepared. Because the world doesn't need more perfection, it needs more real. And there is nothing more real than a soul who has been shattered and still chooses to shine. So here is your call, not from me, but from the part of you that has always known. It is time. Time to walk with your head high, not because of pride, but because of purpose. Time to speak with clarity, not for approval, but as activation. Time to stop apologizing for your difference, your depth, your knowing. Time to radiate the truth of the sign, not just in theory, but in action, in how you love, in how you serve, in how you choose to be when no one is watching. The earth remembers you. The sky bends when you walk. The winds carry your frequency like a secret hymn. The dreams of those around you are shifting because of your presence. Don't you see? This isn't about whether you believe you're chosen. It's about whether you'll choose to live as if you are. There is no final revelation coming. You are the revelation. There is no savior on the way. You are the one your ancestors dreamed of. You are the sign, walking, breathing, becoming, and the world is watching, not with eyes, but with energy, waiting for the signal that the next age has arrived. That signal is you. Now rise, not for validation, not for vengeance, but because your rising rewrites the laws of what is possible. This is your permission. This is your ignition. This is your return. The sign has been carried through lifetimes, through suffering, through forgetting, and now it's time to live it. Now the world begins again.